First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day as I announced that I am taking over the Los Angeles Clippers in the general manager role. I also want to thank and show a lot of love to everybody who's been here as my general manager career has blossomed over these years. Everybody who's been there when I was doing work with the Hornets, when I was doing early work with OKC, even the Hawks as of recent. Thank everybody for all of the love. It's been a wonderful ride, and I would not be here without you guys. And lastly, I want to thank everybody who has helped me make this decision. We had 4 incredible different options, but ultimately we went with the Clippers because we felt like they gave us the best chance to have a mixture of everything that all of the teams offered. We are going to be able to be creative. It's going to be difficult. And there's going to be a lot of different storylines that will unravel and unfold as this series go on. So I want to thank you guys for that. Now, ultimately, for the fans, the most important people of Los Angeles, I am here to announce that we are going to accomplish things that have not been accomplished in y'all franchise's history. It's no knock on anybody that was here before me, from the players, general managers, coaches, or ownership. It's no knock to you, the fans at all, or the city of Los Angeles. It's just that sometimes things happen to unfold in a way that we can't control. But now that I'm here, I'm going to do everything in my power to not only put out the best product, but position us in the best chance to win and compete for championships at the highest level year in and year out. I understand the position that I'm in. It's going to be a tough one, but with patience and with a new open-mindedness, we are going to be able to accomplish things at a very high level. Now, I know a lot of answers are wanted and needed for a lot of questions that you guys will have. And I will say this. Over the last few years of this past Clipper era, there has been this common theme of huge and dramatic acquisitions and huge steps that have gotten a lot of attention. These next few seasons may not be at that same level of excitement on an on-paper basis, but it will be rewarded by on-floor performance. The new era and the new regime that I'm bringing in here is about performance and production. Again, it's no knock on anybody, but I just feel like the last few years of Clipper basketball has been more of a theatrical thing and a lot of name chasing and things in that nature. We're going to be about the theatrics in a different way because we're going to prioritize making sure that we put out the best product that is going to position us again to win and compete for championships. So that's my message to the fan base. Again, I know there's a lot of answers that is wanted and needed. And as things go on, we will continue to answer those questions. But I just want to thank everybody and appreciate all of the love and support. But we have a job to do, and I'm excited to do it. And I think you guys have the best guy in the seat. A lot of change is coming to Los Angeles. We have a new arena, new jerseys. The ownership has been extremely resourceful, and I'm going to use those resources in the best way that I can. So I want to thank you guys again, and let's get this show started. And just like that, we back with another series, y'all. Welcome to the Clipper. I got to think of some unique name to label and call it this. I'm going to think of something. Don't worry, but welcome to a brand new series. A lot of y'all was in the comments saying, man, I don't care what team you use. I'm just ready for the series. Hurry up. Let's get this thing going. I'm happy y'all feel that way because I feel the same type of excitement. But ultimately, it came down to the Clippers. By the way, before we dive in again, I know y'all love that intro. A lot of people was asking and bringing those type of intros back. Those of y'all who've been here before, I know y'all know the routine, but our new viewers, I have to let y'all know how this goes. At the end of each episode, I encourage y'all to drop questions in the comments that y'all would want to see answered at the beginning of the next episode. And basically what I would do is pretend to have some type of press conference or some one-on-one with the media and answer some of the questions that y'all may want to have answered. It's just for fun. Sometimes it is some real questions that people want to know some information behind this move or that move. What are we looking to do? What is the direction of the team? How do we feel about this or that? And it just makes for the series to be more fun. We try to have as much fun as possible. So I'm just letting y'all new viewers know that that's how we rocking for this series. We're bringing that back for sure. Now, we got some things to unpack in episode 1. Y'all know how I like to get down. We want to always put out a blueprint, an overview of exactly what we want to do and kind of garner some type of direction. It's important for me as a GM and an overseer to really figure out which way I want to take this organization. Another thing I want to explain is this is just the default 2K rosters. A lot of y'all know I love to use attention to detail. Shout out to Celtic LG. Because it's so early, I just dove right in. One thing that I also will say about that is, again, I have not been able to figure out how to have everybody on the roster. I went in, I created my own roster to see if I can have the PJ Tuckers and the Jalen Wilsons on the Nets. What they say is, when you save your roster, there's teams that have more players than the limit. So when you start a franchise, by default, CPU is going to remove people from the roster. When I go and look up these rosters, everybody is on the team, including PJ Tucker. We're not that far into the season or that close enough to the season where we have those roster cuts. We're seeing a few of them, like Derrick Rose, who just cut from the Grizzlies. You know what I mean? But like the Clippers, I don't know any information on who's getting cut and who's not going to be on this roster. But I do know PJ Tucker is not a guy who's going to get cut. He would have to be bought out. So I'm just putting that out there. Jalen Wilson, again, is still not on the Nets. If you go to your regular rosters without being in a franchise mode, Jalen Wilson will be on this roster. PJ, everybody's going to be on the correct roster. But once you start a franchise, because they have to have certain roster limits, by default, CPU chooses people to remove. So I have to figure out how do we get behind that or around that, because that's going to irk and annoy me to the max. But for now, we're going to work with what we have. We have Kawhi Leonard. We have James Harden, 33-year-old, 35-year-old. Kawhi Leonard obviously just had a knee procedure in the offseason, so we're going to have to see what's going on with that. I'm going to just lay all the chips on the table because it's episode 1, and I want to start off with a bang on exactly what we're doing instead of trying to make it suspenseful. We're going to trade Kawhi Leonard. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to try to build up value for Kawhi Leonard, because a lot of people are going to have questions of him coming off of, a procedure on his knee and missing the playoffs or not looking good in the 2 games he did play. So we're probably going to have to play some games with Kawhi at first. But what I do want to say is I have already begun to work and think of outlines of what we want to take this Kawhi Leonard trade. So what I'm going to do is I want to indirectly kind of list out our options. I'm going to make a target list, right? So I have some things written down. One of the teams that I think is just ultimately set up perfectly for Kawhi and for us, and it just makes too much sense, the Golden State Warriors, right? Golden State doesn't have much wiggle room. There's not a bunch of available stars for them to go out to get, but yet they still have to prioritize Stephen Curry wanting to play high-value basketball, especially coming off the Olympics and seeing what he still can do on that stage. So what I was thinking was, we just put together some type of package, right? We'll take the Andrew Wiggins contract of the last 2-3 years because of the player option. We really want a guy like Kuminga with some upside and some potential, who's young, 22 years old. Y'all haven't given him the contract yet. We'll give him the contract, let him come and play with us, and potentially let his wings spread. And then we'll take a couple draft picks and we'll just call it a day. You know what I'm saying? The reason I like that trade a lot is, number one, I think the Warriors are one of those teams that would bite at the Kawhi Leonard possibility, even with the injury history, because they really don't have that much wiggle room or that many options to go. And theoretically, you're not giving up that much. You know what I mean? You're essentially trading in Kuminga and Wiggins for an upgraded of Kawhi Leonard. And when he is playing and when he is available, he does look like Kawhi of old. It's just, how much of Kawhi can you get? But you can afford to have that because you won't have to put too much pressure on his body, because he's still playing with Steph Curry on the offensive side of the basketball, and you still have a defense anchored by Draymond Green. So that takes a little bit of a less workload of a Kawhi Leonard still playing on a team like this. We're not asking for AirPods and everything else, so you would still have depth. You essentially have a lineup of something like Steph, AirPods, Kawhi, Draymond, and maybe Trayce Jackson-Davis, or maybe you start Kyle Anderson, or I don't know, but you have some options there. And then off your bench, you still have a Buddy Hield, you still have a DeAnthony Melton, you still have a Kyle Anderson. This team is super, super solid if you have that. And that's just the skeleton and the basis of this trade. So that's option one. I also like it for Kawhi because it allows Kawhi to still be on the West Coast. We don't have a problem with Kawhi. We don't want to send Kawhi to the Detroit Pistons. We want to do right by Kawhi, and we know he did sign the extension, and he did come to LA, so he could be close to home. Going to Golden State would allow him to still be on the West Coast. He wouldn't be that far from home. San Francisco is right there, hour 2 flight away.
you just get you a condo in San Francisco and you play there and you still around the crib. We not sending you to cold weather. So that's just one of our first options of a skeleton outline of how a trade would look. One of the second teams is this team, the Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies are a little lower on the list, but the Grizzlies do have a GG Jackson. The Grizzlies do have $20 million on Marcus Smart. And they have some other things. We could put together something of a GG Jackson, Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, because he has $12 million on his deal. And again, they have draft capital. And they also have the depth to afford to move 2 or 3 bodies in a 2-for-3 or 2-for-1 type of deal, because you still essentially will have Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane. If you acquire Kawhi Leonard, you have a lineup of Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Kawhi, Jaren Jackson, and then you have Zach Edey, and then you still have bench pieces in Vince Williams Jr., Santi Aldama, Luke Kennard, Jake LaRavia. You have some things here. We'll probably add something else from our team to the trade too that will give you another bench piece. And then again, the same theory that we use with the Warriors, we will use with the Grizzlies. Kawhi Leonard is now going to be on the team with Ja Morant, Desmond Bane offensively. So he doesn't have to worry about the burden of being this guy, this number one option for 82 games and carrying a team. His impact is going to be needed. It's going to be wanted, and he's going to deliver and help them get to where they want to get to, but it's with a lot less of a burden versus how it was with the Clippers. Same thing with defense. You now are on a defensive cultured team. You have Jaren Jackson behind you. So the responsibility and the weight of the burden is lessened. And so now you don't have to put too much stress on Kawhi's body. And if Kawhi has to only play 60 to 65 games for you to preserve his body for the playoffs, you can successfully do that on a team like this because you have a Ja Morant, a Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. These are young, fresh legs who don't have as much nearly of the miles that Kawhi has on his body. So again, they have a young talent. We will be acquiring a GG Jackson, 19 years old, on this type of contract. That would be a big steal. Obviously, Marcus Smart comes in and plays high-level basketball. The intensity will be there. And then you get the same thing from a guy like Brandon Clark. We're in a situation with the Clippers where we want the picks, but we also have to remember we don't own our future. So we don't necessarily want to sell the team and just give Kawhi away for a bunch of nothing and just quote-unquote tank, because then the Thunder take advantage of that. So getting back a Marcus Smart and a Brandon Clark is ideal with a young talent of GG Jackson, because that's still enough to, not roll over and be the worst team in the league. But we understand that our playoff odds and our championship odds drop significantly with losing a Kawhi Leonard. So then we keep the tabs on GG Jackson for our target list. Moving on, another team that makes a lot of sense in my opinion. We're just throwing out some options. The Pacers. The thing about the Pacers, though, because I know a lot of people are going to get excited, that we have to pump the brakes on are a couple things that we talked about already. Number one, draft capital is important for us because we don't own our own. The Thunder own it. The Pacers don't have the ideal draft capital because they went out and acquired this guy and they gave that to the Raptors. So the earliest pick that they could probably trade us is 2028. But they would not be able to give us anything in the next couple years, which hurts them significantly because I believe ultimately they would have been able to put together a really good package. You got Benedict Mathurin, who we would have loved, and I keep accidentally putting these guys on the target list, thinking that I'm going to be showing y'all the full trade. But what I was thinking was something along the lines of, first of all, you have to sort this out because we know we need money. So you would do some combination of something like Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Ben Shepherd, and you maybe have to throw in somebody that got making some money, some Obi Toppin or something like that. Maybe we trade out Ben Shepherd, who I really would love to get back in this, for Obi Toppin or something like that. And ultimately, the Pacers would still have Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, you get Kawhi, you have Pascal, you have Miles Turner, you still have TJ McConnell, you still have Isaiah Jackson, you still have Aaron Nesmith, you still would either have Obi Toppin or Ben Shepherd. You have still a deep team while going out and acquiring a top-tier talent in Kawhi Leonard. And again, you're putting Kawhi Leonard in a position to where he's not the third option, but there's other focal points, so much isn't required for him, and he can chill out throughout the rest of the regular season in order to be preserved for the playoffs, because you have Tyrese Halliburton, you have Pascal, you have Miles Turner defensively. You have really good options that can maintain while he takes his rest in between games during the season. But again, the trade can't go so far because they can't give us the proper draft picks, but they are in my notes in front of me, so I wanted to mention that because Bennedict Mathurin at 22, he has some deficiencies defensively, but when you talk about entertainment, you talk about scoring, athleticism, getting out and run, those are the things that you want to do while still trying to be a little bit competitive and appease the fans while we're taking a step back. And then Jarace Walker, this is essentially a first round pick, right? So we don't get the picks immediately, but these are basically 2 lottery picks over the last couple of years that you bring in. And I think this would give us some excitement and have some type of future. But ultimately, the draft picks hurt. If they were able to give us a 2026 draft pick with those young studs, they're the team that we're calling immediately as long as the money can match. That's the other obstacle and problem is Kawhi Leonard has a major contract, and I just don't think they will be able to make the money match with the players that we would want. So I wanted to bring them up. We got to move on. The next team is right next to them, and that's the Pelicans. The Pelicans is extremely interesting because the Pelicans over the last few years have had a lot, but it's kind of been like too much going on. They don't have exactly what they need. So what we were thinking was Trey Murphy III. He's beloved. He's incredible. But is he valued enough where you pass up on the opportunity to get somebody like Kawhi? They're also interesting too because they don't have a center. And that would make me want to include Zubac. You're talking about a deal where you get Kawhi Leonard and Zubac on a team that has Zion, DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones. This team is like one of those big pieces away from figuring everything out. And they would potentially still have Brandon Ingram. The pieces that I want is really like CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy. I think that makes the money match to get a Kawhi Leonard's contract. We may have to add somebody up. Maybe we do flip Brandon Ingram to a third team and they get another piece and we get another piece. I don't know, but yeah, they have wiggle room a lot, but they would be getting Kawhi Leonard and they would also be getting a true center. And again, you have Zion, you have DeJounte, you have Herb Jones defensively. You know what I mean? You still have Jordan Hawkins. You still have Yves Missy. And you have, potentially whoever you would get on a flip for Brandon Ingram. There's a lot there to work with in the Western Conference. So because of that, we're going to keep the tab open for the target list, and we're going to add CJ McCollum to the list. The next team that we have, because there's quite a few teams, the Houston Rockets. Right now, the thing with the Houston Rockets is they are extremely young, but they have made it a point to kind of accelerate the rebuild and playing as much competitive basketball as they can, and they've done a really good job on it. They have all of the young talent in the world that you can develop while also having a guy like Kawhi there, kind of like the Raptor situation, because you still have Fred VanVleet. You have some other guys that are a little bit older, Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks may be included in the trade, but I was thinking of something along the lines where they give us Jalen Green, right? They give us Dylan Brooks. That gives us about $34 million. That starts to allow the money to match. And we throw in one of these young talents that, will get kind of not bothered, but forgotten about with a Kawhi Leonard walking through the building. And that would be somebody like Cam Whitmore. We know how much y'all love Amen Thompson. We know how much they love Jabari. We wouldn't ask for the high value guys that they love. We would more so lean to a Tari Eason or a Cam Whitmore. You know what I mean? And again, it would be an interesting method, but it would still be on course with what they were doing. All you're really doing is giving us Jalen Green, who y'all already are kind of conflicted with, rightfully so, but he hasn't gotten his extension yet. Dylan Brooks, y'all like, but you wouldn't mind replacing him with Kawhi Leonard. And then Cam Whitmore, who you love, but if Kawhi Leonard walks through that door, he's hurt by that because it gets in the way of his development and his minutes and opportunity that's already been kind of thin. So we would want a package of something like that. Their draft picks, they have 3 first-round picks in 2025. They have the Nets 2026 pick. There's a lot there with the Rockets. So I like that Rockets offer a lot. And again, I don't think the Rockets are giving up a bunch of stuff that they would miss. You then essentially would have a team that looked like Fred VanVleet at the 1. At the 2, what you go, you figure out the 2. I don't know. Maybe you put Kawhi at the 2. I don't know. You have to figure it out. But you would, Amin Thompson, duh. You have Fred, Amin, Kawhi, Jabari, and Sengun, or maybe we add something else to the trade because it is a lot of players coming in, so we would probably have to throw something else out there. Maybe we add a third team where they could get a veteran shooting guard or something like that. You can go on free agency and sign somebody, but they would have enough to make some things work, right? And essentially you would have a nice rotation because you would have Sengun, you would have Adams backing him up, you would have Tari Eason coming off the bench, you would have Reed Shepherd coming off the bench. You throw in Kawhi Leonard. This would be a nice trade. I'm convincing myself on this. I'm just trying to think about the rest of that lineup for them and how we could potentially get them to have that shooting guard that they would want. Because on our team, we really got Norman Powell or something like that. So we would figure it out. But they can't have everything, right? They would have to go figure some things out for themselves. And one of the last teams, the last team, we have not 2 teams, so we won't be able to fit every team on here. But I'll just talk about this team real quick. The Miami Heat. The Miami Heat have been star searching. They wanted Damian Lillard. They wanted Kevin Durant. I think they wanted Kyrie Irving. They wanted James Harden. They haven't gotten anybody. They didn't really do a damn thing in the offseason. Besides getting a big fish, they didn't really do shit. They wanted Bradley Beal. They've missed on every single thing. They're in this weird situation with Jimmy Butler. And they have guys, you know what I mean? They have young talent that I like. I don't think that they would trade Jaime Jaquez, but I like Jaime Jaquez. I like Nikola Jovic. I also like Khalil Ware. And they have Tyler Hero here making $29 million. They have Terry Rozier here making $24 million. That does a lot for the trade to be able to acquire one of these big contracts, and then you just start to attach the youthful contracts like Nikola Jovic or Jaime Jaquez or whatever. There again, I don't know how much I would love it, but it was an idea. They again don't have the draft capital, so that's why they're a little bit limited. But the actual last team does have draft capital, and it is the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic, the dark horse team to acquire Kawhi Leonard from us. So hear me out. They have Jalen Suggs. They have KCP, who they just signed. They have Franz, they have Paolo, and then they have Wendell Carter. We would be looking at a deal with them where we would really be wanting somebody like Jonathan Isaac, $25 million a year with a defensive upside. We'll take it. Not even upside, but the defensive tenacity. We would also be wanting a youthful player like Anthony Black, which again, I think they wouldn't be too hurt. They would be a little bit understanding because with all of the guards that they have, I know they're looking at the development track for him. And then we would also probably be asking for somebody like Jett Howard, who again, also like Anthony Black, just doesn't have a lot of time and availability. And then they have a boatload of picks. And so then they would be going into a situation where they would have something on a paper of a lineup that would look something like Jalen Suggs. You would probably move Franz Wagner up to the 2. You would have Kawhi at the 3. And then you would have Paolo at the 4. And then you go Wendell Carter Jr. at the 5. Or you have to figure something out because you went out and you signed Caldwell Pope, who I like. But hey, if you got a chance to go out and get Kawhi, you're going to have to figure some things out. But you can't. I just don't think a team like that would pass up on the opportunity to get Kawhi, especially for the package that we're asking for. Kawhi Leonard, again, like I said, he would have to come in and push a guy like KCP to the bench or something, or maybe they go with a crazy lineup where Suggs is coming off the bench, Franz is at the 1, KCP at the 2, Kawhi at the 3, Paolo at the 4, and Wendell at the 5. I don't know. But from a talent perspective, they would be crazy. And again, like I've said, for a lot of these different teams, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, these are guys that are going to carry the burden, because they have those young, fresh legs, 22, 21, 23, 25. You know what I mean? And then defensively, you already have a culture installed. You're a really good defensive team. Obviously, it hurts to lose Jonathan Isaac when we talk about defense, but you are also adding Kawhi Leonard, gives you some more experience, and it just makes you a better team in an Eastern Conference that's continuing to get stacked and stacked and stacked. Those are all of the teams that I've looked at that was like, oh, you know what I mean? They could have something for a Kawhi Leonard package. The next step for me is really sitting down and trying to value which one. I did this first episode to really set the table like that for y'all to throw in y'all 2 cents. I'm going to read some of the comments. I'm going to take into account what y'all say. If there's any of these teams that I mentioned and y'all was like, oh, no, that don't seem realistic. Like, nah, the Rockets ain't ready to add a Kawhi Leonard. I think all of these teams are realistic options. There are just some flaws, and there's just different things that you have to bring up into consideration, like the Magic one. What happens? KCP is coming off the bench now. I don't think he signed up for that, but you know what's going on. The Rockets, are they ready for that jump? I don't really think it's that much of a big investment for them. It's a chance that I think a team like them would be willing to take. But does everybody feel like that? But ultimately, I think there is something out there between all of these teams that will give us the package that we need to comfortably move on from Kawhi Leonard. I'm just accepting the fact we're not going to do a 1-for-1, right? Kawhi is just not at that point in his career where we're able to say, hey, you know, give us a star and we're going to give you Kawhi. So what we have to do is we have to try to, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We got to try to build up some of that draft capital, which the Rockets having the Nets first round pick in 2026 means a lot. But build up some of that draft capital for the future and bring in some young, fresh legs, and also attach some veterans in all of these trades. That's why I love a Rockets type package where, yeah, we're bringing in Jalen Green, we're bringing in Cam Whitmore, but we also will be getting a Dylan Brooks. You love a Grizzlies type trade where you have a young 19-year-old G.G. Jackson that we would be excited to bring in and develop for our future, but you also are bringing in a Marcus Smart who's ready to play from day one. You're bringing in a Brandon Clark who's ready to play from day one. The same thing with the Pelicans. You would be adding a C.J. McCollum while bringing in a Trey Murphy and draft capital. You will be getting a Jonathan Kuminga, but trying to bring in a Wiggins that you can revitalize and get some meaningful basketball from it. So a lot is going on right now. I'm trying to piece it all together. As y'all can see, that's where we're going to wrap up episode 1. I'm just laying out the foundation. The rest of our roster, we just got to rock with. Like I said, there are some teams where, hey, maybe I throw out a Zubac and say, hey, what do y'all think about him? Y'all want me to add him to the deal? Let's try to do some type of flip. As the season go on, you know, maybe more trades open up. I don't see a world we trade Harden, y'all. I just don't see a trade where we trade Harden. I don't know where we would send him. I don't know if his value, Kawhi's value, isn't even what I think. You know what I mean? Like, it could be if he was healthy. So we got to try to play some games in order to convince teams to say, hey, we really need this. We need this injected into our team. Because theoretically, a healthy Kawhi Leonard that we all know, we talking about 3-4 first round picks. I'm gonna have a struggle trying to convince teams to give me 2. You know what I mean? Look around. Look at what the Knicks just did to get Mikal. We should be getting that type of offer and some more. But because of the injury history, we're probably going to be a team that walks out with 1 or 2 picks. You know what I mean? We'll probably get 2 because he does have at least 3 years. So if you do put him on a Grizzlies team or one of these teams that have options that can, you know, not put too much responsibility on his plate to preserve him for the playoffs, you know, you have 3 years comfortably on that contract. So that's one of the best things that we have. Other than that, we got our work cut out for us. And again, I have to see what other options we have as far as the trade market to really get us better. We just don't have too much that I think is going to be value right now. And even when we get to the trade deadline, what are we going to do? Trade our veterans away to tank for a pick that we ain't going to see? So, yeah, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. It's just the foundation episode. Episode 2, we're going to get things started. And hopefully we'll be able to find a home for Kawhi Leonard. As always, I appreciate y'all. I am Pee Wee the Plug. This is Pee Wee the Gamer. I'll see y'all episode 2. Get busy in them comments. I'm out. Peace.